KREF app.
The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
I'm kind of hungry, Grayson. I'm not going to kid you. Thinking when we get off the air, next hour, it's going to be time for an afternoon snack. What's your afternoon snack of choice?
Are we talking meals or just a snack?
No, not a full meal.
Okay. If it's something quick, I'll go up to Sonic, get some mozzarella sticks.
Oh, you're a Mozzie Sticks guy, huh?
Yeah. We were talking about seed oils yesterday and how we try to avoid those, right? You and I both.
That's the exception you make?
That is one of the very few exceptions.
I think it's just crazy that, and I forget who it was that pointed this out on Twitter, but the entire concept of mozzarella sticks is hilarious because if you handed somebody 6 cheese sticks, there's no way they'd eat them. But you deep fry them and serve them with some marinara sauce, people are all over them. I'm not big on mozzarella sticks myself.
I can tell.
What I'm probably going to opt for when I get home is, and this is one thing that I could never, ever get tired of, never have. I mean, I've been eating this for close to 2 decades, is a peanut butter and banana sandwich.
That ain't bad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'll actually end up doing, especially before I go to the gym, is I have some protein oats at home. It's just protein granola. I will heat up some frozen fruit, and I will cut up a banana, put it all in a bowl, shake it up, and that's what I will eat before I go to the gym.
You will heat up some frozen fruit.
Well, because I don't want to wait 3 hours for it to thaw out because it's currently in my freezer.
Oh, I mean, I hear you on that, but why not just go for fresh fruit?
Because it goes bad too quickly.
Really?
I mean, I've got fresh bananas.
That's good.
But like blueberry, strawberry, like it's just easier. It's simpler to just buy frozen fruit.
Perhaps. Sounds like you need to eat more though if it's going bad too quickly.
Some things stay in my fridge a little too long. I have caught up to what my habits are, and when it comes to berries and stuff like that, it is better that they stay in the freezer.
Hey folks, this is Locked In. Aside from that brief detour there to start the show, we're going to spend the next hour talking OU football and recruiting, as we always do in the 2 o'clock hour, weekday afternoons here on KREF. The show brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC out in El Reno. Head out there, let them get you set up with one of the most reliable trucks or SUVs on the market. Excellent service out there as well. Half-price oil changes on Saturdays. That's a heck of a deal. So head out to Dorsey Jones. We appreciate their partnership. And if you want to chime in on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line, that is 405-651-3439. I tell you, I read this text earlier, and my goodness, and I lost it now. I can't remember who sent it in. I read this text as I was sitting down here in the studio as we were getting ready to go on air 3 minutes ago. And it kind of shattered something in my brain. Because for the life of me, I could not figure it out. But for years and years and years and years, I have been listening to Joseph Harris, the outstanding president of the University of Oklahoma, speak. And he is an excellent orator. But I could not figure out who he sounds like. I'm like, he sounds like somebody. I don't know who it is. Somebody on the text line came up with the correct answer, and the dots instantly connected when I read it. I was like, yep, there it is. President Harris sounds like Ted Cruz.
Oh, yes.
He sounds identical.
Yes, he does.
To Ted Cruz. I was
yes,
like, yep,
he does.
That's it. That's it. Every single time, man. Every single time I hear him speak, I have not been able to figure out who he sounds exactly like, and even like has the same patterns of dictation as Ted Cruz. I'm like, oh man, it's perfect.
Yep, Brian from Maryland got it.
Well done, Brian from Maryland. If that was you, I can't recall whether it was you originally or whether it was somebody else. But, yep, Ted Cruz. That's it.
Greg from Lawton says, so no seed oils, but preservatives are okay. Hey, man, we pick our poison. And we live in
You kind of got to. We live in America.
We live in America, bro. Our food sucks.
Ain't that the truth? Oh, man. Okay, let's start covering some serious ground here. I know I want to let you dig into it a little bit because we were talking yesterday about Cooper Hackett and Texas Tech, man. And Texas Tech has money out the wazoo in no small part due to the influence of Cody Campbell, who runs Double Eagle Energy and is one of the richest folks this side of the Mississippi, you might say. I guess there was a big old article that dropped on USA Today, were you saying?
Yes.
This morning, kind of outlining what Cody Campbell's plans are to help reshape the direction of college football. Because if you've been paying attention over the last few months, one of Cody Campbell's priorities is certainly making sure that Texas Tech positions itself as a national powerhouse in collegiate athletics, especially the sport of football. But he's also quite concerned with making sure things don't get out of hand for the sport that we all love. After reading the article, and I have not had the chance to digest it yet, so I want you to dig into this a little bit. After reading the article, what are your thoughts on Cody Campbell, the college football visionary?
So, first of all, this is an article you're going to need to read 2 or 3 times. And it takes about 15 minutes to get through it because there's a lot.
Okay.
There's a couple of things, but his big idea is reshaping the media deals. And I'm so curious to see what you think about this.
Okay.
The Big Ten and the SEC have their own media rights deals, right?
That they do.
And they are substantially larger than the Big 12 and the ACC.
No doubt.
He wants to move this. His big idea, which I am just fixated on, is he wants to move that into a collective single-payer media rights deal. Now, what happens is that there are people, not just him, that believe that they can generate even more revenue in this single-payer system than if you combine all the individual media rights deals.
Okay.
Because his goal is to uplift the Big 12 and the ACC and still give the SEC and the Big Ten an incentive to do this. Now, obviously, the Big Ten and the SEC have zero incentive to do this because their media rights deals, trump the Big 12 and the ACC, 3, 4, 5-fold.
No question.
But that's his big idea. Here's what's going to really have to happen, though, and the article covers this. I'm going to read this directly from the article.
Okay.
As it currently stands, there are 2 ways to fix the fallout of the last 4 years of paradigm change. Make players employees and collectively bargain, or find significant revenue streams and reset the financial structure. University presidents don't want players as employees because once you're down that road, players will collectively bargain and earn significantly more in media rights, and universities will earn significantly less. But if the leaders of college sports don't want players as employees and want Congress to implement liability protection from future lawsuits, what will they give in return to avoid an unending wave of litigation aimed at an association that over the years has failed spectacularly in court? And I think that's the whole web of resetting this whole thing. And I love that they use the word reset because I've been on this ever since I got on this station. College sports, at its foundation, has been proven to be something that runs afoul to U.S. law. We saw that with all of the antitrust lawsuits from a little more than a year ago.
No doubt.
So that's why you have to reset everything. Now, here's the question. Is it easier to reset the financial structure of college sports? Or is it just easier to make them employees, allow players to collectively bargain, and we go that way? I think that now is the dilemma that everybody's going to have to face. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here. That is all that I've been able to actually formulate an argument for. But I do think the interesting part of that is restructuring how the media rights deals are done, because I think that is a pioneer idea.
Now, I think the most feasible path forward involves collective bargaining. Obviously, I think most everyone has come to understand that one way or another, it seems like that's the direction this is all headed. It's just a matter of kind of when that all takes shape. But man, if we want to tie this into recruiting, and we spent a great deal of time yesterday talking about the Cooper Hackett situation. Blue chip offensive tackle from out in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, Teddy Lehman's hometown. Top 15 player overall in the 2027 cycle. Lifelong OU fan. OU wants him. They've offered him. They've made him a priority. They've got the whole staff building relationships with him. But then over here, you've got Texas Tech. Fresh off their victorious late surge in the Felix Ojo recruitment, which was buoyed heavily by an enormous NIL deal. And word on the street is that there's a similar deal in the works for Hackett at Texas Tech. And so I mentioned yesterday that when it comes to, especially a borderline top 10 player nationally like Hackett, a guy of that caliber, a guy that is that highly regarded, Grayson, it's reasonable to expect, and it should be expected these days, that pretty much anybody of that caliber is going to make a decision that is heavily influenced, maybe not solely dictated, but heavily influenced by the monetary factor, because there's going to be a ton of money on the table for them at one particular school or more likely multiple schools. And so, especially if we move towards collective bargaining, the future that we're headed toward, and this is where I bring in another Moneyball reference. Do you remember the flashback scene in the movie where a young Billy Bean is sitting at his kitchen table with his mom and a couple of scouts that are explaining their plans to draft Billy Bean in the first round and sign him to a contract to one day be their big league center fielder, and he and his mom in real time are weighing the benefits of just taking the professional contract or following through with his plan of enrolling at Stanford and playing baseball there. And one of the scouts says, and I can't remember what the exact quote is, but something to the effect of, hey, if your son's serious about baseball, he needs to look at this as life's first occupation, first career. And frankly, Grayson, especially in a world where everything is collectively bargained, that's what the decision-making process is going to become for a lot of blue-chip recruits, if not just recruits in general, guys with the opportunity to go play FBS football at several different institutions of their choice. Guys with options, guys that are legit high-level FBS football prospects as high schoolers are going to be faced with a decision that is, even more so than it is now, influenced by huge sums of money on the table for them at one school or another. And so they're going to look at it not for what the school can offer culturally or in terms of development. Not that those things don't matter, but I think for most guys, what it's going to become is they're going to start looking at it through the lens of their first job, first choice, first professional choice in their career as to who they side with in an occupational sense.
But would they be wrong to look at it that way?
No,
because
no.
I don't think they would, because this whole thing has been built on this is basically a full-time job with full-time job-like demands, and you don't get money off of it.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I can't excoriate a kid for looking at this as you and I would coming out of college and saying, where's the best place for me to go get my first job? The only thing is that timeline is accelerated because they're going to be 18 instead of us being 22. But the interesting thing about all of this is, in terms of the restructuring, I think Brian and Bixby is going exactly where I was going to. He says, I'm not counting on a billionaire to fix anything other than his own interest. And that's
totally fair.
And that's the whole kicker behind this. Because while all of that sounds really fair and good, we still have to realize it's Cody Campbell, a billionaire, who is actively pumping money into one institution, working right now with a Congress that is largely influenced by the current presidential administration. There's not a whole lot of this is going to work out for the collective good without some kind of without something underlying here. which is why, the NFL and the NBA, they don't run, they are not run dictated by legislation from the federal government.
Uh-huh.
Once you get the federal government involved in this, regardless of whose administration it is, by the way, that runs the risk of being incredibly fishy.
Having the government involved in sports is not a dynamic that I enjoy.
No.
Generally speaking.
And generally, that's not a thing. The government is not involved in the NFL, and really never really was until, 2016 happened. The government is not involved in the NBA. The government's not involved with Major League Baseball. They've had to get more involved because of the gambling thing. But other than that, in terms of the operations of the leagues, the government's never really been that involved because the leagues aren't set up afoul of the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference here.
Yeah. But to circle back around to the original point, I think we could potentially be moving towards a future where recruiting decisions are viewed as business decisions more so than anything else. And to a certain extent, that's already what they are. But when I speak of business decisions, I'm speaking of decisions that are made with financial interests in mind. And again, I think there's a stigma that comes attached to this. Because when people like me, people who cover recruiting, speak of a kid taking the money to go to a particular institution, there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
Of course not.
But so many people hear that, and what they hear is, to use a word that you very accurately deployed a few moments ago, they hear it as you excoriating a kid. Oh, he took the money. No, that's what happened, right? I remember doing this whole song and dance back in August of 2023 when I reported in no uncertain terms that 5-star defensive end Williams Nwaneri took the money to go to Missouri. That was the reason the decision was made, which was true. 1,000% accurate. Why else, as a 5-star defensive end, are you choosing Missouri over Oklahoma, Georgia, Tennessee, and Oregon? Especially at that time. That was before they went and won 11 games and won a New Year's Six Bowl.
Right.
At the time, Missouri was down in the dumps. And I think everybody came to understand at a certain point, certainly after the decision, if not before it, that there was a ton of money involved in that transaction. But people would hear me say, yeah, the kid took the money. And so many folks hear that as a criticism of the decision-making process when it's just a matter-of-fact statement. That's all it is. And there's absolutely nothing wrong, Grayson, with a kid making a decision with money as the primary driver of the decision.
Especially in a sport like football.
Because, end of the day, it's their life, right? They're the only person, or I should say they're the only person that decision impacts. That decision impacts a lot of people. They're the one who's most directly impacted by it, obviously. And so, hey, if we're moving towards a future where kids are going to choose a school based on who's offering them the most money, it's going to be different. It's certainly going to be different from the recruiting world that we've all known for years and years and decades.
Mm-hmm.
But is that a bad thing? Or is that just kind of a natural consequence of what collegiate athletics has become?
A texter in the 405 says, is this the Karl Marx comedy segment?
What is that in reference to?
I don't know, but I don't know if he's calling us socialists or something. Which
Tommy says absolutely a business decision. As the texter said yesterday, Cooper Hackett wants to come to OU if the money is right.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, Grayson, Bill Bedenbaugh has put in dollars, or a quarter billion dollars, excuse me, at this point. And all that can be true, and shoot, he could have collected, or he could have helped develop guys to the point where his disciples have north of $500 million or $1 billion at the NFL level. And none of that is going to change the fact that most any 17-year-old, when faced with the choice to go play at Texas Tech for, just to pick an arbitrary number here, $1.5 million, or coming to play at the University of Oklahoma for $0, they're going to choose Texas Tech, right? And to be clear, that's not me saying that Oklahoma is going to pay $0 to Cooper Hackett, because obviously they're going to make him a healthy financial offer when the time comes to talk money. But the point therein is that nobody is signing with Oklahoma these days. No blue chipper in particular is signing with Oklahoma or any other institution for no money whatsoever. You're going to have to fairly compensate them. Maybe you don't have to make them the absolute best offer. Michael Fasusi is a guy that notoriously took less money to come to the University of Oklahoma. He still got paid a lot of it. Okay, we're overdue for a timeout. Let's hit one. 405-651-3439. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line is starting to fill up. One of Oklahoma's top targets in the 2026 class trimmed his list last night. 3 finalists for a borderline 5-star prospect that remains uncommitted, and of whom Oklahoma is still in active pursuit. We'll discuss that and more in the segment to come. Keep it here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Have you or someone you know suffered a loss to your home or business from the recent storms? Before you accept a settlement, call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Brown O'Haver is a local-based company helping Oklahomans with claims since 1988 with preparation and expert analysis detailing your loss and insurance settlement. As your trusted consultant, Brown O'Haver can give you peace of mind and make sure you're getting what's yours. Call Brown O'Haver today, 405-735-5510, and make sure they're working for you.
We all play a role in keeping our communities safe. Oklahoma is no stranger to attacks. It's now easier than ever. If you see something, say something. The free and anonymous Protect OK app allows instant reporting of suspicious activity, both in schools and the community. You can help keep your family and friends safe.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Protect OK.
Download the Protect OK app today in the Apple app or Google Play stores. Funded by the Oklahoma Office of Homeland Security.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
At Meals on Wheels of Norman, we deliver more than just meals. We deliver connection, compassion, and care to homebound seniors right here in our community. But we need your help. Volunteer drivers are the heart of what we do, and just a little of your time can make a big impact. Join our team, make a difference. Visit MealsOnWheelsNorman.com or contact us at 405-321-7272 to sign up as a volunteer and start serving smiles today.
Whether you're from out of town or live here year-round, Visit Norman encourages you to shop local this summer. Visit Cayman's on Main Street, your one-stop shopping for men's and women's clothing and accessories, designer jewelry, cosmetics, and home decor, featuring Peter Millar, Johnny O, Rag & Bone, John Hardy, and much more at Cayman's. Wonderhouse Design and Consign for window covering, upholstery fabric, wallpaper, furniture consignment, and more. Locally owned and operated with a constant rotation of new and unique pieces, Wonderhouse Design and Consign is always worth a stop. Grab some friends and head over to Westwood Family Aquatic Center. Don't wait to grab a season pass for exclusive access to all the summer fun Westwood Family Aquatic Center has to offer. Keep the good times going in Norman all summer when you eat, shop, and play local.
I'm Gina Mitchell of Mitchell's Jewelry. We are where Oklahoma gets engaged. And as you would expect, diamonds, engagement rings, and wedding bands take center stage. You can also browse our cases for the latest on-trend styles, unique gemstone jewelry, and timeless classics. Our store is filled with beautiful jewelry, but some of our most special pieces are custom designed and one of a kind. Our goal is to give you an experience beyond compare. Shop with us at Mitchell's Jewelry in-store or online.
Buying a mattress can stress people out. Pushy salespeople, high prices, the whole deal. That's why you need Adam and John Curtis at Mattress by Appointment. They're a father and son team and fellow Okies with locations in Norman and Chickasha. If you're in a hurry and on a budget, they make it simple. Same-day delivery and just $10 down to finance. No gimmicks, no pressure. Just good people helping you sleep better. Call or text 405-956-2161. That's Mattress by Appointment. Family owned, local, and just a call away.
It is locked in here on the ref. Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton. We're streaming on YouTube every single day. For those of you that don't know, now you know. You can find us on YouTube by searching KREF Sports. Odds are you will see my face and or Grayson's face upon searching KREF Sports, because our stream every day makes up the meat and potatoes of the KREF Sports YouTube channel offerings, although you will find many other insightful snippets, including portions of interviews with guests, including Dusty Dvoracek, Joe Castiglione, etc. Dari Noka, by the way, has just done a fantastic job since he joined the crew here at the Ref of getting
great,
some
man.
big-time guests on these airwaves. It's been fantastic to watch. That's that's the luxury that you are afforded when you have spent 20-plus years at ESPN. Boy, are we fortunate to have Dari on board. The Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line is 405-651-3439. Grayson isn't white?
Gunny, you know the answer. Gunny, you of all people know the answer.
Oh, he knows. There's always, it seems like
there
every
was one
week,
of those. There was one of those yesterday. We didn't get around to reading it, but there was one.
Seems like every week there's always somebody new who's surprised at that reality. We did get a super chat from Hubinator Boom, who asked how many universities are profitable. I don't know the answer to that question. How many universities are profitable? If we're just talking universities versus athletic programs, I couldn't tell you. I mean, universities have to stay profitable in order to stay in operation for the most part, right? I know there's some that carry debt. But, yeah, I don't even know how to go about
We're the wrong
ballparking
people
that.
to ask that question to.
I wish I could give you an answer. I cannot. A listener in Kansas says, I'm okay with money being the primary deciding factor in recruitments, but let's just be honest about it. Once again, I did this once. I'll probably never do it again because I got raked over the coals for it for weeks. The Missouri fan base still won't let me forget it. I've had to block so many of them. The kid in question spent 1 year at Missouri and then transferred to Nebraska, which in and of itself goes to show you that the decision made was a pretty shallow one in the first place. And again, I reported that it was due to financial considerations. And boy, I took more flack for that than anything I've ever done in my professional career. Here's the deal, Grayson. And maybe this has changed in the last close to 2 years since that whole saga unfolded, but people don't like to hear that a student-athlete chose their university in large part due to money. They would like to believe in their idyllic brain space that it's all about the coaching, it's all about the development, all about the culture, all about the relationships. And obviously when you see something like that unfold, and I'm not the only person who is wound up in the crosshairs over stuff like that. I work with somebody in Pete Nakos at On3 who has been in the crosshairs probably more frequently than anybody in the industry because he will go to such lengths as reporting the numbers concretely, and people hate it.
Here, I'm going to push back against one thing that you did say, though. We've got another text I do want to get to before we get to Jake Krell, though.
Okay.
Can we stop calling making decisions based on money a shallow one? Because I do feel like there is depth of thought that goes into, hey, I need to take the most money.
Oh, yeah, no, and I didn't intend to call the decision a shallow, but, like, obviously the fact that he was only at Missouri for a year.
No, I get how it looks,
yes.
But again, it's one of those things where you never know how somebody came up and what kind of life-changing money it might be.
Mm-hmm.
So when you use the term shallow, it's like, okay, but there might be something there might be something deeper there. But in the instance of who you're talking about, staying from 1 year and then hopping to another program, you can decipher how that might
Perhaps
look.
I phrased that incorrectly. I didn't mean to insinuate the decision was shallow, but the bond between Winery and Missouri was only as deep as the money.
A texter in the 405 who has identified himself as Robin Moore. This is why I am 100% against private equity getting involved in college athletics.
Amen.
They are interested in one thing and one thing only: return on investment. Which I'm not going to read the rest of that text, but it basically has something to do with that.
It's a lengthy text,
and that was another part of that article about Cody Campbell. Is that a lot of this is going to be based on ROI. And the only thing I will say to that is, has private equity getting involved in anything ever been a positive thing?
I'm coming up with 0 examples off the top of my head. Andy from Edmond says, idyllic brain space. Way to insult your listener. Andy, come on now. I wasn't insulting anyone. That goes for OU fans as much as it goes for any other fan base across the country. But fans in general would like to believe that their institution lands recruits and wins recruiting battles because of culture and because of relationships and because of the potential for development, and they don't want to believe that money is at all involved. In 80 to 90% of cases these days, it is. And that number will creep closer to 100%.
Yeah. Sooners for Life on the YouTube chat says, I'm almost willing to wager that Jake Krell doesn't come to Oklahoma with a head coach on the hot seat and the AD stepping down.
Ooh, okay. So let's shift gears here and let's get into the Jake Krell conversation, because that is where I wanted to go with this segment. Jake Krell, 4-star defensive end from IMG Academy down in Florida, is down to a Final 3. Grayson.
Yeah, he is.
It is Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas. Those are the finalists. No Florida, no Ohio State.
That was kind of a surprise.
No Colorado. It's OU, it's Ole Miss, and it's Texas. I and many others regard Oklahoma as the leader for Jake Krell at this time. Now, I don't think this decision is going to be made very soon. I think this is probably one that you're waiting till the fall to find out where Jake Krell's going to play his college football. And I think the reason for that, Grayson, is he does favor Oklahoma right now. Jake Krell is leaning in that direction. Ask almost anyone, no matter which school they cover, no matter what insight they have, you'll probably get the exact same evaluation of that recruitment. Jake Krell is leaning Oklahoma. But a player of his caliber, who has all of the options that he has at this point, if you're leaning Oklahoma, that's probably the one thing you're going to want to see before you commit and go all in with
We've
Oklahoma.
Been talking about it all week. Got to win games. And you think about it in this way too. Ole Miss and Texas are in the other 3. You would have much rather seen Florida, because Florida's coaching staff, especially going into last year, was on a much more shaky foundation right now. Steve Sarkisian ain't going nowhere from Texas. And unless something catastrophic happens, neither is Lane Kiffin. So even though you're the leader, you've got to win games for this guy, because Jake Krell's a defensive end. He's going to be more affected. His side of the ball is going to be a lot more affected because the head coach is the defensive play caller.
Bingo.
So that makes this even more of an important task for Oklahoma, because you're recruiting a dude on the head coach's side of the ball. So if you start to sputter and it starts to look like the head coach may not be there, and yes, the AD change I think looms large here, because that next AD may not have as much room for grace. You got to win games. I think this is probably at the top of the list, his recruitment of guys that you have to win games to be able to lock down.
Mm-hmm. Michael and Marlowe on the text line wants to know, has Oklahoma gotten anyone because of a bigger bag? Yes, many times over the years. Many times. But Jake Krell is another example of a guy that you're going to have to pay up for, and Oklahoma's prepared to do so. And all that's great. It's great to know that Oklahoma's in a position where they're going to be willing to fight the battle monetarily, but it feels like we're going to keep coming back to this over the next couple of months, Grayson. Oklahoma has to win football games this fall for so many reasons. And when it comes to what's going down for the Sooners on the recruiting trail and what has the potential to go down in the coming months, winning is absolutely paramount. And it's going to be the last box that gets checked for a lot of big-time players in both the 2026 and 2027 classes. We talked about Peyton Houston a couple days ago, the outstanding quarterback from down in Shreveport, Louisiana, at Evangel Christian Academy. That's a guy, if you don't win this fall, he's probably committing elsewhere. But if Oklahoma starts off hot, and we're looking at probably roughly an October decision for Peyton Bowen, if Oklahoma starts off hot and they're trending upward heading into the month of October, I think the Sooners land him. So with Krell and with Houston, I mean, those are two of the absolute highest priority, if not the two highest priority recruitments that Oklahoma is involved in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a strong case to be made that there are no two recruits that are uncommitted right now more important to the future at Oklahoma than Jake Krell and Peyton Houston. And those are two guys that, quite frankly, are going to have to see wins before they lock it down.
I'm going to spin this back to our last segment because in the last segment we talked a lot about money.
Yes.
Isn't it kind of refreshing to just see recruitments come down to, hey, who can win games, right? Because that's ultimately what Peyton Houston, we talked about this yesterday. Peyton Houston knows he's going to be equitably compensated wherever he goes. Jake Krell, the same is true.
Mm-hmm.
Now all you got to do, hey, we're going to compensate you fairly. It may not be as much as some of these other dudes, but you notice that they're still the leaders for these guys. All you need to see is, hey, what's your performance look like on the field? So ultimately, sometimes things come back to correct themselves, and it just goes back to let's just play football, and let's see how the football looks. And I do think that is a very refreshing, it's going to be a refreshing in-game to see if you can just win football games. Because if you win football games, you get your dudes. If you don't, that's when you have problems.
Recruiting Boomer says, didn't realize we were recruiting Peyton Bowen again. Oh, I hope I never have to deal with a recruitment like that one ever again. Peyton Bowen's a great kid. He's a great football player. I was so fed up by the end of his recruitment. I remember after he had committed to Oregon, during the 24-hour period that he was committed to Oregon, that night I was on the road, I can't remember to where. And I was on the phone with a veteran of our industry who's been covering recruiting for 25 years, if not longer. And this individual told me, I have never gotten to the point where I just absolutely do not care about a recruitment anymore, but that's where I'm at with the Peyton Bowen recruitment. And, of course, this was in the midst of the whole developing storyline of him not faxing in his NLI, and Oklahoma's still in the mix. There's still conversations ongoing. It was a very climactic victory for Oklahoma when it finally became official that he had signed with the Sooners. But, boy, was it quite a miserable 36 hours for a lot of folks, including myself, up until that final decision was made by Bowen. A 405 listener asks, question, what happened to the Jefferson kid, tight end, right? Yeah, if you missed it, that came down, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago now? Josiah Jefferson committed to Utah over Oklahoma. So Tony Jefferson's younger brother, who had an offer to come play tight end at OU and could very well have been eligible to join Oklahoma's roster right away in preparation for the 2025 season, did decide to go play his college football at Utah as opposed to at Oklahoma, which was a tough loss for the Sooners, but then they turned around the next week and got Tyler Ruxer. So all's well that ends well for the Sooners. They got a dude, the number one prospect in the state of Indiana.
They brought in two tight ends Texter in the 580 says, who do you think starts at D end opposite R. Mason Thomas?
Well, Phil Steele's magazine says Taylor Wine, right? We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting little wrinkle, but tracks with plenty of the hype that has circulated from within the program surrounding Taylor Wine throughout the spring. Am I convinced he beats out Marvin Jones? A rising senior, former 5-star recruit. I'm giving the edge to Marvin Jones, but if indeed Taylor Wine can win that battle, hey, props to him, man.
Does two things. One, does this say more about Taylor Wine or more about Marvin Jones Jr.? That's number one. And number two, is it a situation where Marvin Jones is going to be given every opportunity to lose the job, given that they paid for him to come over from Florida State, and he is a former 5-star recruit?
Well, it's hard to answer either of those questions definitively for one particular reason. Taylor Wine did have a very impressive spring, but Marvin Jones was also on the shelf for the majority of spring. So it's hard to really get a gauge on what Marvin Jones is going to look like this fall, because I don't know that anybody at the University of Oklahoma has seen 100% of Marvin Jones yet. So that is one of the genuinely intriguing position battles, and there don't seem to be many of them, but that is one of the genuinely intriguing position battles that is going to be waged amongst Oklahoma's starting 22 this fall. That'd be a storyline to track through the month of August. Okay, folks. Again, 651-3439 is the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. One final segment of Locked In is on the other side. Keep it here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Dusty Dvorak here. You're listening to the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Fowler Automotive is proud to be a part of your community, where our passion and values lie far beyond the showroom. We believe that families, sports, art, and culture are at the heart of every thriving community, and it's important to us that we help build the communities that our dealerships call home. Stop by any of our 6 Oklahoma dealerships to see the Fowler standard hard at work. We pride ourselves on being friendly, helpful, honest, and fair. This is what drives us every day. Fowler Automotive, a proud partner of OU Athletics.
Hey, it's Mike Steele here for my friend Gary and the great staff at Cavens Group. After all the rain in the spring and now with temperatures on the rise, you might have a problem with mold growing in your home or business. Let the staff at Cavens help you before it becomes a major issue. Don't forget, Cavens can help you with water emergencies and biohazard cleanup 24 hours a day. Call Cavens today at 405-573-3048 or visit them online at cavensgroup.com. Is your team coming to Norman or Noble for an event? Let Chick-fil-A 12th Avenue be your winning meal provider. From box meals and nugget trays to lemonade and tea, 12th Avenue Chick-fil-A can provide your team's pre- or post-game meal. Delivery, pickup, or dine-in, 12th Avenue will have you covered. Call us at 405-310-3189 or use the CFA One app and let Chick-fil-A feed your team. Don't forget to ask about the Give Back program for a winning season. Call 405-310-3189 and remember to eat more chicken.
Hey Sooner fans, this is Dory Noka, lead anchor of the SEC Network and host of the Dory Noka Show here on the Ref. SEC Media Days are just around the corner. No one will have you covered quite like the home of Sooner fans. Tune into the Ref July 14th through the 17th as we go live to cover it in Atlanta. That's SEC Media Days, July 14th through the 17th, and no one covers it like we do, right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
The Ref's SEC Media Days are brought to you by Bob Hurley RV, the Oklahoma football tailgate headquarters.
Around the world, Children International and friends like you are giving children in poverty a chance to thrive by helping ensure access to healthcare, nutrition, and educational opportunities and support on their path to employment. Because every child deserves a chance to realize their full potential. Learn more about Children International by going to children.org today.
Springtime in Oklahoma means a near constant threat of severe weather and prolonged time without electricity. Before the storm hits, we encourage OEC members to download the My OEC mobile app and turn on outage text notifications, so you can be confident that when your power goes out, so do we. Visit okcoop.org/outage center for storm prep tips, a real-time outage map, live updates, and more. At OEC, safe and reliable power is our mission.
Stand Up to Cancer asked leading cancer researchers to speak about why they do their work.
Two words come to mind for me. One is responsibility, the other is purpose.
It's just so inspiring to do research that impacts human lives.
Stand Up to Cancer has been a critical partner in advancing research for cancer.
Cancer research saves lives.
So please, help us fight in this battle against cancer.
Be a part of the team that ends cancer at standuptocancer.org.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it expanding your balance. Spend it expanding your mind. Spend it wondering what comes next. Spend it trusting that God has a plan. Spend it taking small steps in your own life. Spend it making a big impact on someone else's. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
Parker Thune, Grayson, Singleton with you here on the Ref. Final segment of Locked In. I'll tell you what's refreshing. Again, this kind of goes back to my recollection of everything that went down with the Williams-Winery recruitment and the reality that it feels like some folks just don't want to believe that money is involved in their favorite programs' acquisition of big-time talent. I do like that we are getting to the point where the student athletes themselves are more comfortable acknowledging that NIL plays a role. You know, I can recall talk, and here's an SMU tie for you.
Go ahead.
I can recall doing an interview with four-star interior offensive lineman Pupunga Toa Katoa back in April. At the time, Oklahoma was pursuing him. Texas A&M was still pursuing him. SMU was pursuing him. He wound up committing to SMU. But he was very candid. He said, yeah, look, we're going to have the money conversation when I go on my OVs because that's going to matter. I was just scrolling through Twitter just a moment ago, and Zion Robinson, a wide receiver that Oklahoma was in pursuit of for some time, eventually I think they kind of backed away. But he's a receiver down in the state of Texas, blue chip kid, just committed to Michigan a couple of weeks back. And I guess he told a Michigan recruiting website that what sealed the deal for him was the combination of great academics and athletics and a strong NIL package at Michigan. So I also don't feel like Felix Ojo has really tried to run from or spin the reality that a big factor in his decision to commit to Texas Tech over the weekend was the NIL deal. I mean, he shared several different posts to his Instagram story that touted the reported numbers that he was getting as a Red Raider. So I like to see that the student athletes and their folks are getting more comfortable acknowledging that money is very, very prominently involved in their decision-making process. I hope eventually, and I believe it will happen, but I hope soon here we get to the point where fans aren't under the delusion that their school gets players with culture and relationships, and when a kid doesn't commit to their school, it's about the money.
Look, and I'm glad we're in that spot too, as we should be, because there's no reason that working adults, because that's ultimately what college football players are, they're working adults, should be scared to say, hey, I took this job because they paid me more money. Because everybody that wants to, that just wants to vilify and aim vitriol in the direction of somebody who is taking a job because it paid them more has probably done the same thing. So it's one of those things, and it bothers me so much because these are grown people. I mean, they're over 18, they're adults. And this is the only sector of society where grown adults can't make money, and if they do make money, it's some sort of a problem. That has always bothered me so much.
And look, all things equal, would I move from Norman, Oklahoma to Lubbock, Texas? I would not.
Neither would
but
I.
If a company in Lubbock, Texas offered to double my salary, would I move to Lubbock, Texas? Yes, I would. Might not live there forever, but at least in the short term, Want to stack some cash for 5-10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bite the bullet, move to Lubbock.
That'd be a hell of a bullet to bite, too.
Blake from Owasso wants to know, I missed it. Do you think Hackett is also waiting to make sure the Sooners win, or is it all about that bag? Any updates on Gross? Yeah, I don't know when Davian Gross is going to make a decision. Feel really good about where Oklahoma sits in that one, and that is a kid that they are willing to fork over big money for. I know that much. With Cooper Hackett, I don't think anything is remotely imminent there, Grayson.
And neither should it be.
No,
he's a 2027 kid.
Exactly. Like, he's going into his junior year of high school. For him, there's more than adequate reason to just play out his junior year, put some more on tape, see if he can climb even a little bit higher in those rankings, contend for the number 1 overall slot nationally, and then see what he's worth at the end of that season. But I think if Oklahoma wants to land Cooper Hackett, of course they're going to have to win this fall. Because you're talking about the number 11 player in the nation who's probably, albeit not certainly, but probably not going to commit to a program that is floundering. And if Oklahoma wins no more than 6-7 games again this fall, then the floundering label has been earned at that point. The Sooners have to win for many reasons this fall. Brent Venables has to stabilize his job security. But if you do win, if that is an effort in which you succeed, if John Mateer can lead this team back to the upper echelon of the SEC, that will have a very, very positive influence on your recruiting efforts.
Here we go. A texter in the 918. Yes, keep comparing privileged D1 athletes to the rest of the working world. Not the same thing, and to ask fans who just accept it is elitist. I guess I'm an elitist here. Because that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Wow.
Privileged? Sir, do you know what privileged means? Privileged means you didn't have to earn it. It means you didn't have to work for it. You don't get to be a D1 player that commands millions of dollars via privilege.
Mm-hmm.
At least the vast majority of them. What are you talking about? They're not privileged. They're part of a multi-billion-dollar industry where players have long been robbed of what they deserve, and now they're getting a chunk of it. And because there's an emphasis on entertainment in the United States of America, that's what that commands. There is no privilege involved in here.
A 918 listener asks, is Parker negotiating a new contract on air? No, I have not been made an offer by any company and or corporation in Lubbock, Texas. If I did, I would absolutely give my current employers a chance to match it, at the very least. Recruiting Boomer says, and to be clear, I would give a hometown discount where applicable in order to stay in Norman, Oklahoma. Now I lost the text. Where Recruiting Boomer said, I had a few girlfriends who committed elsewhere due to the dollar. We've all been there. 2-star Brian and Bixby says, envy and jealousy is not a good look by that texter. A 918 listener says, yeah, high school athletes with God-given talent. Yep, had to work for that. And, okay, oftentimes there is natural talent that is involved. Like, to a certain extent, you have to be endowed with certain physical gifts in order to play football at the highest levels. But you also have to put in the work. Like, you can't.
Do you know how many talented people there are that don't play college sports? I am exhibit A of this. I didn't play college sports. I was a hell of an athlete, though. You got to work harder than everybody else to do it, to get to that point. I don't get.
We all know.
No offense to you, Parker, but like,
no, it's all,
I feel like you were being a little bit soft on that dude there.
I figured it was probably a little bit too late. We have like 60 seconds left.
Yeah,
it's probably too late to start a full-blown war. But, like, here's the thing. We all know somebody who's 6'5", right?
Yeah. There are some people with built-in head starts.
How many of our 6'5" friends resemble Michael Fasusi in stature and mobility? Yeah.
Fair point.
And that's been developed. Michael Fasusi has packed all that muscle on his frame, and he's honed that footwork with years of soccer and advanced training and experience on the gridiron. Regardless of what physical gifts you may be endowed with by our great creator, you still got to put in the work.
You got to work. Zach from Guthrie says, Grayson, you're 5'10". A little bit taller than that.
Yeah, no, I am 6'1", and I look up at Grayson, so he's at least taller than that. That I can attest to.
The realist says, we have heard of Grayson's bowling talents. Parker, take us out.
And on that note, folks, we'll see you again tomorrow for another installment of Locked In. The Rush is coming up next here on The Ref. Same time, same place tomorrow. We'll see you then. For Grayson Singleton, I'm Parker Thune. Take it easy.